Hi everyone, welcome to Self-Care with Meg. My name is Meg and I'll be leading you through your practice. Today we're going to talk about knee pain and lots of different things that you can do to deal with knee pain, sort of depending on where that is coming from, what your issue is, and you can explore all of these different moves and see what works for you. But before we get into it, let's breathe here and get settled in for a moment. So however you are seated or resting or laying down, we'll take some breath together. So if you're sitting, sit up straight, pay attention to your posture, relax your face, relax your shoulders out of your ears. If you're laying down, let yourself be heavy. Maybe place a hand over your belly, a hand over your chest. And exhale all of your air. Inhale through your nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, holding your breath at the top. 2, 1. Exhale is 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, holding your breath out at the bottom. 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale and keep that going. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause. We'll be here for just a couple more rounds, and it is important to get yourself breathing before you start a therapeutic session. Because it helps you relax, and the more relaxed you can be, the easier it will be for you to settle into these shapes, to deal with any discomfort you're feeling in the stretches or in the trigger point exercises, and let something go, right? And that is ultimately the goal, is to release tension, to let go of some pattern that you're hanging on to. And you don't have to just breathe at the beginning. Of course, you're going to be breathing throughout the whole thing, but the intentional breath does help. It's something that I stress all the time in class. It's primarily a breathing practice, no matter what type of yoga you're doing, whether you're doing yoga with weights or a yin class or a vinyasa class or something like this. The breath is paramount. It makes sure that you're here in the present moment paying attention. It makes sure that you are paying attention and actually arrived, existing in your body. And when we're breathing, we're letting go of stress, not building it up. So just make sure, and I'll of course remind you throughout class, that you are breathing intentionally. And if you're doing a therapeutic session or doing a yoga class, you're giving yourself that time anyway to be with yourself. And you know that breathing is important, right? You know that breathing will help your nervous system and your psyche. So why not, right? Why not make it a focus? All right, take one more round just like that. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause. And then come back to your natural breath, keeping it long, keeping it intentional. And we're going to start by working with the tibialis anterior. So this muscle doesn't actually cross the knee or help with the movement of the knee, but if you have a problem there, if you have tension there, it's going to create tension upstream in the knee, because, I mean, that's where it's going to attach, just on the bottom, right? So this muscle tends to get tight, especially if you wear high heels or just any sort of heavy shoe or uncomfortable shoe. And we're going to get into it with a stretch. So we are going to do we're going to need a bolster or something similar. It must be firm. And you'll put your knees together feet as close together as possible, toes on your bolster, and then just sit back on your heels. And the more of your foot is on top of the bolster, the less stretch you're gonna get. So if you need more support, feet farther on the bolster. If you need more stretch, just the toes on the bolster, right? And then sit your weight back, right? The toe is going to be in that pointed position, and you'll feel it through the tops of your feet. You'll feel it through your ankles and possibly up through your shins. And I have quite a few things that I want to do in this session, so I'm not going to spend 5 minutes in every stretch and every trigger point, but know that you can, right? You stay until something changes. You stay until you notice a difference, and that difference can be a change in sensation, right? You might get into the stretch and it feels like a burning or just a pretty intense stretch sensation, and that might change into a dull sensation or no sensation at all. And then you might notice a change in range of motion. So your ankle might get closer to the ground. Your foot might flatten out a little bit more. You might also notice an emotional change. And I find that people have the emotional releases more when we're working in the hips and in the chest. But that doesn't mean it can't happen anywhere in your body that you have been holding tension. And because tension is created from overuse, misuse, trauma, stress, dehydration, injury, there is an emotional component, right, to holding tension in the body. And some things create that emotional component more than others, of course. But if it's a pattern of tension you've been holding for a long time and you ask your body to let it go and you relax enough to actually do so, chances are you're going to have a change in emotional state. And that might feel like something as, benign as nervous laughter. It might be something a lot bigger, like you really need to cry, or you get really angry, or something in a memory comes up for you that is strong. So if you notice something like that, that's also a change, right? You have also released something, so it's safe to move on at that point. All right. When you come out of this shape, you can slowly walk your hands onto the mat and then roll out your ankles. And we're going to take a stretch in the other direction. We're going to take fire toes pose as well, because tension does tend to move up and downstream, so we might as well take care of the feet and just make sure that the tension isn't originating there. So tuck your toes under. I like to reach back and move the last 2 toes away from the other ones, just getting a good splay in the toes. My friend Ashley Weber, who is a great yoga teacher and podcaster and all sorts, yoga and podcast, very good. She taught me this. She is really good at yoga with the feet, and she showed me that if you splay the toes more, you can get more out of this stretch. So once your toes are tucked under, you can rest your hands down on your legs. If you need less pressure, you can have your bolster out in front of you and put your hands or even forearms down, depending on how much support you need. But if not, you can sit fully back, keep your shoulders right over your hips. And if you want to bring the stretch more across the toes, you can do a little rock right and left. And this is going to feel like a burning in the bottoms of your feet. You're stretching the fascia, the connective tissue in the bottoms of your feet. And that sensation isn't going to hurt you. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but you're not doing any damage. That is what it's supposed to feel like. That's what it feels like to stretch that connective tissue. And our feet get locked up again from wearing shoes that are like a cast in a not very body-friendly shape, right? And anything from climbing shoes to high heels to work boots, anything that doesn't let the foot just splay and relax naturally. And then our feet are our source of force, right? Every step that we take, our foot is working. But more than that, every time we pick something up or push something away, we are grounded through our feet. And from that grounding, we're able to create force with the rest of our body. So our feet are just doing a lot for us. And again, make sure that you are breathing. It is easy to hold your breath as a reaction to sensation. So just check in with that periodically. All right, and you can walk your hands back onto the mat, roll out your ankles, wiggle your toes. All right, and let's get into the hamstrings next. So it's really hard to trigger point the hamstrings with a lacrosse ball. I do have this roll flex. It is a tool that you can order online. I'm sure they have it in stores somewhere. But I will demo how to use this. And if you don't have this, people will use weighted rollers on their hamstrings. But those are really the only ways that I have found to actually get in to the hamstrings. I haven't really figured out a way to do it well with the lacrosse ball. But before that happens, we're going to stretch the hamstrings. So you'll need a strap. We're going to do the classic single leg hamstring stretch. And all of the muscles of the hamstring cross the knee. So it's a good place to target if you are having knee pain. So right foot, put the ball mound of the foot on the strap, so just below the toes, not on the toes, not in the middle of the foot, just below the toes. And when you extend your leg, at first, don't straighten your leg out, don't lock out the knee at all. Bend the knee pretty good and flex your toes back towards you. You can even pull into that strap a little bit so your thigh comes in towards your belly. And then from there, extend your heel until you feel just a moderate stretch, not anything too crazy. Your leg isn't shaking. It's not a strain at all. And from there, point and flex your foot a few times, maybe a dozen times into that strap. Point and flex, point and flex. All right, and then bend your knee, give it a little break, let that go. And then extend your leg. And with, again, not fully locked out leg, but just a gentle bend, maybe a little more stretch, point and flex the toes a couple more times. So as you flex your foot back, you'll feel a stretch probably more in your calf. You might even just feel more stretch in general, but you're getting a stretch with both the toe pointed and the toe flexed back. Just a couple more, point and flex. And then you can relax your foot. You don't have to point it or flex it, and pull the strap back towards you to get a good stretch in the back of your leg. And you can walk your hands up the strap, or I like to walk my hands up the strap so I'm just relying on my grip strength and not my biceps to keep my leg up. And again, just doing it until there is a change. So you might find a change of range of motion. Right? You can pull your leg a little closer to you. A change in sensation, right? A change in the feeling of the stretch. And whenever that happens, it's fine to move on. And it's good to spend time like this listening to your body, right? Being really tuned into the signals that your body is sending you, the information that your body is giving you, connecting more into your intuition, connecting more into that primal part of you that has a lot of good wisdom, a lot of good information. All right, when you're ready, you can bend back into your knee and fully extend that leg. Give it a shake, and we'll just do the other side here. So again, starting with the knee bent, right? Pulling your thigh back towards you, flexing your foot back towards you, and then extending your leg until you just feel a very mild, stretch. Nothing crazy, nothing that you're having to really, breathe through. And then point and flex your foot. Pointing and flexing into the strap. And this helps to relax your nerves. Because hamstring stretching can feel super intense, right? A lot of my yoga students will come to me and say, I have tight hamstrings, it hurts to forward fold. But a lot of times there's more of a quad issue or glute issue or just something else. And the hamstrings aren't super tight, they're often kind of weak. And it's more of a nerve sensation, a nerve tightness that is creating that lack of mobility. All right. And from there, relax, let that go for just a second. And then re-extend your leg, straightening it out a little bit more this time. And then again, point and flex into the strap. Point and flex, point and flex. And you can really pull back on the foot so you feel that stretch through the calf, that different type of stretch, and then really point into the strap, extending through the ankle. Just a couple more times. And then relax your foot, pull that strap in towards you. And feel your femur plug back into the hip socket. And our attention can be focused on external things so often that when we take the time to slow down and listen to ourselves, it might be hard to pick out what your body is telling you, to tune into your needs, to get clear about what it is that you want, both, in this scenario, how much pressure do you need? How much can you push it? But also in general, right? Like what it is that you want, what it is you want to be doing with your life, maybe what you need from your relationship, both in your family and romantic and friend relationships, what you need to do to be satisfied, how you want to be spending your time, all of these things can become unclear if we don't take the time to actually pay attention to ourselves. All right, so then whenever you're ready, you can bend your knee, come out of it, set that strap aside, extend your leg, give it a shake. And we're gonna get into the gastrocs, the show muscle of the calf. So, it's kind of hard to show. So this one is going to cross the knee. The soleus, which is more of the workhorse of the calf, doesn't cross the knee. But there's these two sort of lobes of the gastrocs, and they do cross the knee joint. So we're going to get into that. And you're going to need your bolster and didn't even get my lacrosse ball out. And your lacrosse ball. So I'm going to demo the left side first. And I'm going to sit on the bolster, bend the left knee, right leg is extended. And then I'll take that lacrosse ball and put it up behind the knee. It doesn't need to be touching the back of the knee. You can give, a quarter of an inch, half an inch of space there. And then sit back, creating that pressure. And it's good to have a blanket handy because this can be pretty intense. So sitting up a little bit higher will put less pressure on the lacrosse ball and can allow you to sink into it a little better, make it more tolerable, and then you can take out the blanket or take out whatever other props as you settle into it. And what you're doing with the leg that you're not working on doesn't really matter. You can fully extend it, you can plant that foot, however you are comfortable is fine. And like I said, there are 2 lobes of the gastrocs. So if I was looking, if this was the back of my calf, they're gonna come up and there's sort of a midpoint. So you can go right in the middle of the back of your calf and get into both of them at the same time. If you wanna be more thorough, you can go a little bit to the inside and a little bit to the outside to get into both of those individual halves. But I'm going right in the middle. That seems to work for me. And it really just depends on if this is your tension point, right? If this is crazy intense, first you can go to a tennis ball, right? You don't have to use a lacrosse ball. But you can also be more thorough. And I find that this one really starts off with a lot of intensity. Even if my calves aren't that tight, getting into the calves, getting massaged in your calves can be crazy intense. But it also tends to dissipate rather quickly. I find at least I can relax into this one and take out some of those props and really sink into it more in a relatively short amount of time. So whenever you are ready to come out of that, you can untuck your leg and do shake it out, wiggle it out. So the gastrocs not only points your toe, but it also bends the knee like that, points the toe. Just some information. I'm going to move on to the other side, and I will start with the blanket. So again, right in the middle of the calf, not touching the back of the knee, give it a little bit of space, a half an inch maybe. Sitting on your props, bending the right knee this time, placing the lacrosse ball in, and then sitting back. And I do it naturally, and so do most people, right? Taking a sigh as you get into a posture, taking an open mouth exhale, letting out that initial tension with some breath. It's helpful. It's going to be helpful. Taking deep breaths, taking big exhales helps to settle your nervous system. And your nervous system doesn't differentiate between physical stress and emotional, mental stress. So the stress on your body from doing this exercise or from working out or whatever, at a neurological level, or at a hormonal level, I guess, it's the same as emotional stress. And we sigh when we're stressed out. We sigh when we're annoyed. You take a deep breath when you are preparing to have a tough conversation. Those same techniques work when you're dealing with physical stress. And you can also scoot your leg closer in to you to get more pressure on it. If it's splayed a little bit farther out to the side, that's going to be less pressure. You can scan your body here, making sure that you're not clenching your jaw or holding your shoulders up in your ears. Let your whole upper body be as relaxed as possible. Right? You don't want to be gripping somewhere else as a reaction to the sensation. All right, and when you're ready to come out of it, you can untuck that leg, shake it out. And then to use the roll flex, it's good to sit in a chair or to sit on something taller. My plan was actually to sit on this bench back here, but I think I could probably do it just sitting on this bolster with a blanket stacked on it. This is tall enough. So I'm going to plant my feet, and this tool is a little bit, funny, I think. So you can make it small enough to work on your calf or your forearm, but you can also make it big enough to work on your thigh. And for me, having it 3 clicks in, so it sort of just moves through these little wiggly bits to make it tighter or looser. And then you just clamp it on your thigh, and there is a hand hold so that you can squeeze it together and then roll it up and down. So the yellow bits, the knobby yellow bits, are what's going to massage the hamstring, and you can really dictate how hard you want it to be squeezing on you. All right, you get the idea of that. It's a good tool. If I'm running a lot, I like to use it both in my hamstrings and in my calves. I have a different one that I use for forearms if I'm climbing a lot. This isn't my favorite one for that, but definitely better for legs. All right, that's that. All right, so next I would like to get into the TFL. So if you are a runner and you're having runner's knee, the TFL is what you want to get into most likely. And your TFL is the tensor fasciae latae, and it's a small muscle, so your hip bone on the front of your body, your ascis, anterior superior iliac spine, pointy bone on the front of your pelvis, just to the side of it, right, not back in your butt, not even on the perfect side seam of your hip, but right next to that bone is where you want the lacrosse ball. And TFL hooks down into the IT band, hooks into the knee. All right, so I like to have both a blanket and a bolster for this one. And I'm gonna lay on my back. Easiest way to find the hip bone, plant your feet, place the lacrosse ball again right on the side of that hip bone, and then roll over onto your side. You can extend that bottom leg to put more stretch in the stretch, and then top knee is on your bolster. Roll up your blanket so that your head and neck are as comfortable as possible, and that's that. And you'll probably feel it down the outside of your leg, possibly into your knee, right? That's a telltale sign that this is the thing you need to be working on if you're having a knee issue. And then I tend to feel it down into the bottom of my foot. So it's in the same line as the peroneals, and we'll get into those as well. So muscles on the side of your calf. So we got into the back of the calf, the gastrocs, and then we'll get into the side, the outer side of the calf in the peroneals after this. And just a note on the hamstrings, I mentioned weakness being an issue. So if you have weak hamstrings and tight quads, so the front, especially the rectus femoris, which is something we're also going to get into. So weak hamstrings, weak back of the thigh, tight front of the thigh, that can pull the tibialis anterior forward from the femur in relation to the femur, and just pull one of the bones of the bottom part of your leg out of alignment, and that obviously is going to mess with the knee and the alignment of the knee and cause pain there. So just something to be aware of. That hamstring weakness can be part of the issue. So checking in with that, and you can do hamstring curls, of course, as a way to work on hamstring strength. And make sure that you're not tightening in your shoulders here. You're in this side lying position, and it can be easy to create more tension across your chest. So try and be as relaxed as possible as you lay here. And then when you are ready, you can roll onto your back, coming off of that, and we'll get right into the peroneals on the same side. For the peroneals, I'll scoot my bolster up and use it underneath my rib cage, because right in the side of the calf, maybe about 4 fingers width distance below the knee, that is where you're going to want the lacrosse ball. I'm noticing that the lacrosse ball is like the same color as my pant. Well, not the same color, but a similar color. And it might be easier to see if it's a different color. All right, yellow it is. So again, about 4 fingers below the knee, on the side of the calf, and not back in the really squishy part, but it's going to feel like you're pinning the muscle against the bone. All right, and then once you have the lacrosse ball where you want it, I like to stack the top calf on top of the bottom knee. That gives me enough pressure. You may just want to stack the legs, and if that is too much pressure, you can take the top leg off and just rest the bottom leg on the lacrosse ball. So it's a choose your own adventure with pressure there. And you can roll that lacrosse ball up and down by maybe 2 inches, an inch, 2 inches, and massage into that muscle and feel where exactly you need it to be. Where do you feel the most therapeutic sensation? And I'm feeling this really down into my ankle, sort of down along my shin. But you might also, again, feel it upstream into your knee. And I'm propping my head with my hand. There are better, more supportive ways that you could be doing this. You can fully lay down on your bolster and fully relax, go more passive than I am. And when you're ready to come out of that, you can just release the pressure. Maybe roll out your ankle or get some other movement in the leg before we move on to the other side. So bolster for the left side will be over on the left side. Make sure your blanket is prepared for your head. Plant your feet, find your left ascis, hip bone, right to the side of it, into your TFL, and roll over onto your side. Head on your blanket, top knee on your bolster. Whew, my left side is zesty. Zesty today. So I'm really feeling this all the way down through my IT band and really into my knee. Yeah, I have just started running, so it does make sense. But yeah, I'm definitely feeling this one. And when we listen to ourselves and get more clear with ourselves on our needs and desires, how we want to be living, what we need from our, everything, relationships, works, pursuits, everything. The next step from that is being able to request those things when someone else is involved. And a lot of times this has to do with our partnerships and romantic relationships. Because when we get clear on our needs, it is an act of love to share that with the people that we love, right? To give them the opportunity through a request to help us fulfill our needs. But that expression can be really edgy, especially because I think as human beings, we get nervous that the other person will think something bad about us for having a request, which is totally ridiculous. But I don't know, it tends to come up. I hear it a lot in relationships. I feel it sometimes, for sure. And I'm not sure exactly why, but it is definitely a thing to feel nervous, to ask the person who you care about the most to help you fulfill a need, to have a request of them. And yes, the worst thing that could happen is that they say they're unwilling or unable to help you with that need. That's the worst. So I would say that is not a bad enough thing to be worth not making the request, to be worth not having that conversation. All right, you can come off of that lacrosse ball when you're ready. And then set up for the peroneals. So again, about 4 fingers below the knee, in the side of the calf, not in the sort of squishy bit, but pinned up against the bone. And choose your way of stacking your legs, maybe just stacking, maybe putting more pressure on by putting the bottom or the top shin on the bottom knee. Lots of options. And you can roll that up and down, roll the lacrosse ball up and down to see exactly where you get good sensation. And we use our big human, creative, beautiful brains to imagine all of the worst possible reactions and scenarios, to create beliefs that our partner, is too selfish or too whatever, too something, to want to help us out with a request for a need. When we've never brought the thing up, right? We don't know how they're going to react. We can't predict the future. But that fear and that, twisted creativity can stop us from saying anything, can stop us from having the courage to bring it up. And that just creates resentment, right? We hold on to this thing that we want, that we desire, that is in our heart of hearts. And rather than asking for it, we get mad about it. Which, when I say it, sounds ridiculous, right? But I think it happens very often. And I think a lot of the times it's not as big of a deal as we make it in our heads. All you have to do is ask, really. And then either way, you get an answer. And from there, you can make new decisions, right? You can reevaluate your need. You can have a discussion about why it can't be met in that relationship, whatever that relationship is. And you could figure out how to get it met by someone else or in some other way. All better options, I would say, than festering about something and feeling resentment about not having a need met. All right. Whenever you're ready, you can come off of that lacrosse ball. And again, get some movement. All right. And then the last place that I'm going to target is the quads. The rectus femoris, which is the quad that sort of runs down the middle, that connects into cartilage that goes completely over the knee. So that's the only quad muscle that does that, right? That motion. So we're going to get into that, but we're also going to get into some vastus lateralis because all of the quads are going to attach right above the knee, or just really on the sides. So tension there is going to get transferred downstream. So first, quad stretch. And stretch your quads however you're going to stretch your quads. The most effective one that I can find is the one against the wall. So grab a blanket, find a wall, and it's good to have blocks also so that you can have your hands on something and work your way up slowly. So I'm going to bring my right knee all the way against the wall on top of that blanket. Hands are on the ground. This might be enough stretch for you. If not, step the left foot forward. This might be enough stretch for you. If not, you can work your way up onto blocks at whatever height. You can even stack those blocks, come all the way up, and maybe have a hand on your thigh and a hand on the blocks. And your back knee is as close to midline as possible. So you're not getting a wider stance between your legs in order to create stability. No, use your hands for stability. Stack something, grab a chair, whatever it is you need to get, so that you're not relying, you're not, trying to balance here. You're feeling stable. And then think about tailbone down, pubic bone up, right? So you're not dumping into your lower back. And if you get into this and you're like, wow, my knee feels like it's going to explode, then your quads are probably your problem, right? If you're feeling this very strongly in your knee and not up in your actual quad muscle, this is probably a big part of your knee issue. And even if you're feeling it very strongly in your quad, it's probably something you need to be doing at least a couple times a week. In my experience, people have tight quads. Lots of people have tight quads from sitting and other things. So stretching your quads should be a part of your routine, just for general body maintenance. And if you want to get into the stretch even more effectively, you can do this for a minute, then switch to the other side, do it for a minute, and do that 3 times through, right? So you're doing it just for a minute, but doing it, 3 times through, like I just said. And that will help you to sink in deeper, right? You're not just sitting here for 3 full minutes waiting for something to release. You're coming back to it, and it's just an effective way to stretch. So when you are ready, you can bring your hands down, untuck the leg, come off the wall. I like to press my leg into the wall. That just feels good to me after this. Give it a shake. And we'll go right into the other side. So left toes point up. My knee is on that blanket. Maybe you stay here. It's fine if this is enough for you. Great. If not, step the right foot forward and make sure that your knee is over or slightly behind your ankle. Yeah, so if your knee is way out in front of your toes, nope, that's not really good for your knee of the leg that you're not working on. So don't do it. Have good alignment. And then maybe up onto the blocks, maybe stacking the blocks and coming all the way up. One hand on your knee. And then lunging into it. And a little bit more on that point, if you go to step forward and your foot gets stuck and you can't really get it to slide forward, you can manually pick it up and move it forward, or take more time not stepping your foot forward. Stretch your quad in that original shape to the point where you can step your foot forward. Right, having it, halfway and the knee really bent forward, it's not good. So feeling again a little lift of the pubic bone, lowering of the tailbone, evening out the pelvis as much as possible. And of course, there are more muscles to get into besides the ones that I'm offering. There's all sorts of little muscles behind the knee, but getting to them with trigger point, I haven't really found an effective way. Of course, go to a massage therapist or something like that, and they might be able to get into it better. Plantaris and those other knee specific muscles. But I find that oftentimes these bigger muscle groups that are running over the knee are to blame. All right, when you're ready, you can come off of the wall. Shake that leg out. Oops, sorry, plant. All right. And And then we're going to get first into rectus femoris. So, again, the muscle that runs right down the middle of the quad. So we're going to start about a hand width distance below where you crease. And then we're going to get just above the knee. And then we're going to get maybe a palm's width distance above the knee in the vastus lateralis. So vastus lateralis is the muscle that is the outer third of the quad. So if on the very side of your thigh you have your IT band, just anterior to that is going to be vastus lateralis. So rectus femoris first. I like to have my bolster to lay on to keep my chest propped up. You can lay flat. Place the lacrosse ball, again, smack dab in the middle, right to left on the quad, and then about a hand's width distance below your hip crease. And then I bring my left knee out to the side, like a half frog pose, for a little bit more stability. And then you can lay down over your bolster. You can keep yourself propped up on your elbows. Either way is good. Do a different angle. I don't know if that was really a helpful angle, but that's that. And you can lay fully flat in this one too, if that works for you. I like to be propped up. I think that it helps me put more pressure on the lacrosse ball. All right, and when you are ready, you can scoot forward to roll that lacrosse ball down to just an inch or two above the knee. But if you could tell by the look on my face, that is sometimes not very comfortable. So you can also place that lacrosse ball, again, maybe an inch and a half, 2 inches above the knee, right in the middle. Same shape. I really do like to have my chest propped for this one because so much more of the lever of my leg is pressing down onto that lacrosse ball, so it can just be a lot more pressure, a lot more intense. So I prop myself to make it more tolerable. And then left knee still out to the side like a half frog pose. And you'll probably feel this right over top of your knee. Because that is how this muscle attaches, right over top of the knee, or into the cartilaginous band that goes right over the top of the knee. And then breathe, reminding myself as much as I am reminding all of you to just breathe. Feel your rib cage open up into your bolster. Allow your face to soften. And keep paying attention for those changes. Right? Any shift in muscle density, you may feel the lacrosse ball sink deeper into your muscle. change in sensation, change in emotional state. All right, and when you're ready, you can come off of that lacrosse ball, and we will get into vastus lateralis. So I'm going to get into this in more of a side-lying shape. So you're not pressing again into the side of your leg, that would be IT band, but you're pressing into this outer third of the quad. But you're going to press into the side of it, right? So kind of like how we were in the peroneals, you're going to roll your quad into the lacrosse ball, and then you can stack your top leg over it to put some more pressure. And my legs are relatively straight here. You could bend your knees more if that's more comfortable for you. But you do really have to be clear about what it is that you want before you can make any requests from someone else. And that takes time being with yourself, right? Self-exploration. Because the more clear you can be with a request, the more likely you are going to get it fulfilled, right? When you ask someone, I want you to love me more, what does that mean, right? That could mean a million different things to a million different people. Being vague isn't helpful. You can start there in your own head, right? I need more space, I need more love, I need more whatever the thing is that you need or you think you need. But then what does that look like for you? What's something that someone could actually do? Because if someone said to me, I need you to love me more, and I just went, okay, I did it. Like, would you feel more loved? Probably not. But maybe I did it in my heart. You couldn't tell. All right, when you're ready, you can come off of that. And then we will take the other side, starting with the upper rectus femoris. Trigger point, so about a palm's width distance below your hip crease, where you crease, right in the middle of your thigh. And then right knee will cock out to the side. Wow, left leg today. Left leg is feeling it. And make sure that you're not clenching in your lower back, you're not clenching in your abs. Letting all of that be soft and heavy, allowing your hips to sink down into the mat without resisting, without pressing the ground away. And on the receiving end of requests, I know there have been times in my life with friends and roommates and employers and lovers that I have been asked to do something. And it was such a shock to me that that has been something on the person's mind for so long. That, because I had no idea, right? I had no idea that I was doing something or not doing something that was making them happy, sad, uncomfortable, whatever. And then, you get the request and you're like, yeah, I can do that. Amazing. And then you have the sort of peripheral conversation of how long that has been bothering that person. And it's like, oh my God. I feel bad, of course, but also I'm not a mind reader. So, I'm sorry that you were feeling that way, but you asked, and now I get the opportunity to act, which is great for me. All right, moving down into the second rectus femoris. Second rectus femoris trigger point, and I get a lot of good support all the way underneath the belly for this one. I'm going to lay like a sloth on a branch. Really feeling this fully over top of the knee. I'm noticing that I am tensing right in my upper glute / lower back on that left side, letting that go. And I bring that up really as just an encouragement to speak, to have a conversation, to have a discussion, to, say what's in your heart. Because the other person might be really grateful, right? And wouldn't that be awesome? That you're, rather than seeing your request as a burden, you are giving the other person an opportunity to join you in your joy and happiness, to contribute to your life, or whatever the situation is, and that's a great opportunity. All right. Come off of that second rectus femoris trigger point. And then the last one, the lower vastus lateralis trigger point. So again, maybe a palms width distance above the knee, not on the perfect side of the leg, not in the IT band, slightly anterior, slightly forward from that. Rolling it into the side of that quad muscle. And then maybe stacking the legs. Really let your body be heavy, let your lower body sink down into the mat. Wow, I really am monochromatic right now with my pants and my sweatshirt and my bolster. And that is an example of a distraction from which you could remind yourself to come back to your attention, to your breath. You can get into this trigger point laying on your belly. I guess I might as well demo that. You just have to be in a sort of side-lying, sort of belly-lying shape. So I'm internally rotating my thigh, so my toe is turned inward. My right knee is still out to the right for support. Be good to support most of your torso on a bolster. But this is a lot of pressure. I'm enjoying it. It feels good to me. But I don't know. If you need more, this is a good option. I'm actually getting a lot of good softening in that muscle with this option, so maybe it's a really good option. All right, so when you are ready, you can come off of that. If you need to shake out your leg or get any movement, you can. And then if you have time to just lay down for a minute, take a shavasana, take a nap, go ahead and do it. But if you're going to move on with your day, take a moment to come back to a seat, cross-legged or kneeling, sitting up tall. Let's just take one deep breath together. Inhale through your nose. Pause. More breath in. Stick out your tongue on the way out. And soften back into a natural breath. Thank you for taking the time to practice. Thank you for taking the time to take care of yourself and pay attention to your body, work with your body, work with your needs. And until next time, I hope you can let something go.